All right, so you guys have been asking for this on Twitter, on YouTube comments. Give us a video on Ledger and what to do with the current Ledger situation and what kind of wallets to use. Now, we're not going to make recommendations. What we're going to give you is a lot of research that our own CryptoPit has done, along with myself, in testing a whole, layer of wallets to possibly replace what's happening with Ledger. But before we get into all that, it's going to be a breakdown of where Ledger's position is right now, because there's a lot of Ledger fans out there. So we'll break it into it, all that today. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into TechPath. All right, let's start here. This is getting so dramatized, it feels like, and it's getting worse and worse for Ledger. Just to give you a little bit, this came from Duo9, a tweet from him that breaks down the Ledger, blasphemy that is going on here. So this happened back in November of 22. Private keys never leave the secure element chip, which has never been hacked. Secure element is a third-party certified, same tech is used in passports and credit cards. That's good. Firmware update cannot extract the private keys. Keyword there, cannot extract the private keys from a secure element. Then the tweet that basically broke the internet when it comes to crypto, and that was the one on 5/17, basically saying, technically speaking, it is and has always has been possible to write firmware that facilitates key extraction, an exact opposite of what they were saying in November. So either it's in full incompetency or just downright lying. I don't know which it is here, but either is bad for Ledger. This is not a good look, and it continues to get worse, guys. This, of course, coming from a tweet from Mason. He says, basically, CEO confirms that government can subpoena them and get access to your funds, officially might ditch Ledger. I'll complete transparency. I mean, Ledger has been an advertiser on our network. They've been a product that I use, I had faith in. And this is just one of those things. Fortunately, there's been no major problem other than people saying, all right, well, crap, now I'm out the 140, 150 bucks, because maybe you do or you don't trust them. But if you look at this tweet right here, if you're a Recover user, this is if you actually go into the service, and you have your shard info safeguarded by third parties, then yes, the government could subpoena them and get access to your funds. This is the first thing. If you're going to decide to keep Ledger, which I'm going to keep funds on Ledger, but I am not joining into the Recover aspect. I want to see how this plays out for Ledger and see if they can actually pull it together here. Now, some of the things that they've been doing is damage control, which is the good PR process that you need to do, and that is to get in on all these podcasts. So Gautier joined Peter McCormick over on Bitcoin, what Bitcoin did, and listen into a couple of clips here. Let's show a couple of clips of what happened on that podcast.
Customer success agent that was trying to do his best to explain, how this works. So there was a fuck up not even in terms of communication, but in terms of sequencing of the release of the product. This is what created the FUD.
If you use a closed source hardware wallet, you have to trust that updates are not malicious. And I think that's an important trade-off for people to realize if they're going to make an educated decision. Do you not disagree? I don't think it's a real fair concern. I've always heard about the community. The community is upset, etc. Actually, crypto is a subset of community. So there is no such thing as the community. People were like, oh, Pascal, you're so arrogant. I'm like, well, I'm French. So what are you talking about?
Yeah,
When it comes to open source versus closed source, so first of all, open source is not a panacea in terms of security. I mean, if you give me a Trezor right now, give it to my dungeon, they extract the private keys in 30 seconds. But they don't use a secure element. They use a chip that you would find in your toaster. And so this is why it's so easy to extract the private keys. And so, of course, all these chips are open source.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. That, of course, is a scenario that can play into it. And I wonder, though, if that is not the capability of, say, a Trezor engineer being able to do the same thing with a secure element. Apparently, if you have enough nefarious attacks on a secure element component for what these Ledger security mechanisms are. The third clip gets into some other options. Listen to what they had to say.
You say it's imperfect. I say yes, but it's 20x better than what they're doing on Coinbase or Trust Wallet today.
Absolutely.
And so that's my point.
If the two options in the market for you right now were as an exchange or this product, where would you use if they were your two options?
I would probably tell people to just pick a different product.
I'm just saying of these two options. I'm saying, is it an improvement?
But that's not the market, right? The market has other options.
Yeah, and I think the other options is clear. Now we've seen an opening within the hardware wallets that is going to open up the eyes to everybody. Because remember, I think in crypto, people look for the most secure, the most, or I should say, the better narrative that has been coming out. And out of Paris, we have seen nothing but security narratives coming out of Ledger. And also innovation. You know, they've done a great job at innovation. Listen, they haven't done things wrong until this, which was really kind of uncovering maybe what was going on all along. So these are the kind of things. The good thing is that the community is paying attention. The industry is paying attention. Twitter is paying attention. And outside of Twitter and a passionate community, believe me, you're going to see this kind of scenario play out in everything from Fidelity to Robinhood, all sorts of different areas. We start to see security breaches and nefarious actions out there that, you know, listen, we're talking about money. Bank hacks are one of the biggest ones out there. So all of this plays into, I think, the future of where all this is going. So let's go into what are your options in getting into this. Before we start that, I want to jump over to quickly on the specs. Let me zoom out a little bit. So these are the specs of the current ledger. And you'll notice here on the certification level, it's a CC EAL5+. This is important because there are actually devices out there that have greater security level than this. So that in itself is going to be interesting. Further into this, Ledger responded by saying, all right, we're going to go open source. This was a tweet stream by Charles Guillaume, and he is the CTO at Ledger. Now, we went through the tweet storm quite a bit, and there's a little bit here that I really wanted to focus in on, and that's this statement right here. I'm going to zoom in on this so you guys can really see it in the tweet storm. It says the other parts, after we get into basically taking it open source, the other parts will take a little more time since it needs to be refactored to abstract the chip-specific characteristics under NDA from our OS. Now, let me decipher that simply, is they're talking about open sourcing this, but keeping stuff behind the kimono. So it's not really open source because they're going to abstract the chip-specific characteristics. This is a problem of, kind of a, just a fake narrative of where open source truly is going. And this is something I think that is going to be a problem, possibly, again, just another PR management situation where they're trying to figure out how to get around this. I still think this is a scenario where they go back on their original mission, truly make what it is that they were supposed to make, and offer an alternative out there for those who want to do the recover service and those kind of open elements out there. Not that I can imagine that there's a market for that. So I'm going to give you guys a few other cards or wallets to use. Here's Arculus. Arculus, pretty straightforward. You can get this for $99 less a 20% discount right now if you use that code private20. We don't get paid anything on this, and they're not sponsoring this episode. This is us just looking at all these, and we have Arculus in the house, we've got Tangem in the house, and we're going to look at some others as well to give you guys some continuous. So let's go to the Arculus slides real quick. And I want to take a look at, because this is kind of the breakdown of what we see. This is, if you aren't safe with your ledger right now and you want to go ahead and move some assets, things to be aware of. No firmware updates, because this is a card. And it's no Bluetooth. It's an NFC device, very, very secure. It is EAL6 plus secure element certified. It also has 3-factor authentication, another big advantage, and it also has NFT support, ETH only. So, but it is not open source, just be aware of that. It's a little pricey, I think, $99, a little pricey for the card. But, when it comes to storing your assets, I mean, sometimes there's no price to pay. All right, so let's get into, also I want to flip over to the side, the next wallet we took a look at, which is Tangem. This is the Tangem Wallet. A little different layout. They also have a card. It's an NFC component, no firmware updates, EL6 also, secure element, 3-factor authentication, 3-minute setup. It has 3 cards for multiplication. I will tell you this, you lose these cards, you basically lost your wallet. So be aware of that. I would really be cautious of where you're placing the physical devices. 3 minutes, very fast. No seed phrase. That's kind of a unique thing. Private keys are hidden forever, which I think this will make it easier for people to get onboarded into this and make it simple, because private keys usually are one of the bigger things. This is open source, so you can get it on GitHub, and it is audited. So in case of a potential zombie event, there's some benefits. Now, the audit comes over from a company called Kudleski Research and Security. And I did some background checks on these guys. They're legit, and they're working for a lot of companies in the banking sector and the crypto sector. They're all over the place, so medical, etc. One thing that they really got in here, this is the audit of the Tangem smart card wallet right here, and this is on the code. A couple of highlights we notified here is we identified a number of security risks and then ensured they have been appropriately mitigated by the Tangem engineers. That's a good statement. And then further into the research, it says we didn't find any backdoor, malicious, or suspicious undocumented feature in the firmware itself. So again, pretty good. At least you can feel somewhat rested. But again, this gets back to the whole point that we've talked about before. Eventually, here's the Tangem GitHub, just so you kind of know. Remember, they're based in Switzerland. That's a good thing in the essence of the finance industry. And they've got a lot of high-powered executives that run this. That says it's a good thing. It's just they're legit. So Tangem is another one that we're testing out. We're gonna give you guys a recovery, because we're gonna be transferring and doing a lot of tests. Ease of use so far, from what I've seen from the Tangem Wallet, very easy to use and super simple. It's very app-driven, and it has what I think is the best onboarding tool set for general people who are not aware of crypto and how it works. It's much more smooth and elegant than what Ledger is. When I would train somebody on a Ledger, it was complicated for most people to understand how you use it. No cables, no clicking, none of that. It is simply an NFC, ID, the metrics on your passcode, and getting into it. So it does have some secure elements there. Just so how it works, they use a kind of an interesting aspect to this within the chip that is designed in this card. The key is written onto the chip at the factory during the production of the Tangem Wallet. It's used only once during the backup process. Further into this, the Tangem firmware allows for the KISS method, which is the section that we're talking about for the security, to be used just once. This means that once it has provided and received a private key once, the chip will no longer respond to the backup procedure. The private key therefore becomes unrecoverable from all cards, and even the Tangem cannot extract it. So you'd pretty much have to reset this thing, which they say right below that. Of course, if you carry out a factory reset on the wallet, it'll forget the two elements there, but it also forgets the crypto. So your keys within it. So you'd lose it all. So be aware of that. I know it gets complicated here, guys, but it's not super complicated in the sense of security. Think of this as a bearer asset. Whoever has these elements has the asset, and it's not your keys, not your coin. That is more true now than ever. So if you are, going in this direction, maybe you want to try a few of these. They're not super expensive, but I know if you don't have a lot of crypto, listen, if you're under $10,000 in crypto, I would say that and I tell this to a lot of people, just keep it on an exchange. That's fine. You get over 10K in crypto, all right, now you got to start playing more defense. Now you need to be aware of where those crypto is being held. And obviously Coinbase is continuing to get, solid here around this, but, it's just one to be thinking about. SecUX also is another one. These guys are pretty cool if you're into NFTs. This is, I would say, one of the best NFT wallets out there. I have only a handful of NFTs, so I just am looking for something that I can store those. But if you look at something that is a little bit more deep dive, and there's some people out there that use this. This is a good example. Here's David Joel Katz-Schwartz, who is the CTO over at Ripple. And he says, hey, I don't tell everybody, but he says he has recommended the SecUX wallet. So again, we're just looking at people they're in the know in the industry. We've tested out a lot of these wallets so far, and we're seeing a lot of interesting things around it. We'll continue to report on this. I think the really interesting thing, though, is to figure out how Ledger and if Ledger can come out of this. Don't forget, there's still a software solution out there. You guys can get into the Phantom Wallet if you are a Solana guy and you really are tied into the Solana ecosystem. There's also some benefits, with the Phantom Wallet now that has made it much more cross-chain compatible. So there's a lot of benefits there if you like software versus hardware. So there's a lot of tool sets out there. And it was kind of like back on that podcast with Peter. They asked him, what would you use? He said, well, there's so many more options now, but it starts to put, let's find what the next best option is. Drop your comments down below. We want to find out what you guys think of these different devices and the ones that you've tried, or do you have others that you have tried? Drop them down below as well. And because, listen, it's just a sharing community. We want to learn. Always check it. And remember, do your own research on these. Always look at the depth of security, their audit. Make sure you look at the executive team, where they're based. All those kind of things, just like a bank, really. You should be doing that on banks now, especially in these days, almost as much as you should be. This is your money, and you need to understand that it is secure in these different ways that it's used, because you can't go out there and print it and stick it under your mattress. So there you go. All right, so if you guys are not tuned in to the Diamond Circle, get in there now. It is a real great place to be because we do a lot of additional content, a podcast over there, additional audio cast, analysis, breakdowns, all that available at the Diamond Circle link down below. Of course, if you want to catch me, it is out there on Twitter at Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.